Hi, good evening, or good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Okay, there aren't any. So, special thing today. Special new activity today compared to how I've been doing things so far. We are going to be recreating the 1911 first flight across the United States, and going to be doing that in the closest approximation of that I have available. The 1916-ish era Curtiss JN4, known fondly as the Jenny. This is 22R. Yeah, okay, there. We'll start there. All right, so now, let me see. So yeah, so for historical reference, this is what we're doing. This is going to be our inspiration for what we're doing for the next probably couple months in the sim or on the stream. And yeah, okay, we'll do that. So this was the first flight or first aviator to fly across the U.S. in an airplane. Was one Calbraith Perry Rodgers in 1911, and I'll talk more about that as we get into it. He did it in this plane, the Wright EX, dubbed the Vin Fiz. I don't have this exact plane I don't have this exact plane available to me, so we're going to do the next best thing, which is the Curtiss JN4 Jenny. The Curtiss JN4 Jenny was first built in 1916. Or was first built in 1916 and was used as a trainer for U.S. Army Air Corps pilots. What would become the U.S. Army? What would become the Air Force? Okay. All right. Let's get into this. And I will keep keep talking about the history as we get in here. Truly lovely things about this. So here we are. Take a good look at it. Beautiful piece of machinery, or beautiful piece of early 20th century machinery right here. Okay. Okay, flight controls. Now, the neat thing about this is that when I do my flight control check, I can actually see the flight surfaces. Control surfaces, so much easier. Now, you'll notice the visibility. You'll notice two things about this. One, I'm sitting in the back of the plane. And two, I'm just going to leave it. We're at JFK Airport. JFK is basically at sea level. Yeah, one, I'm sitting in the back of the airplane, and two, the visibility out the front's not great from where I'm sitting. So... Alright. This being a trainer aircraft and the conventional design of the time was that the flight instructor or pilot commanding would sit in the back of the plane, and then the passenger or trainee would sit in the front. Trainee has a map tray, but not any of the useful instruments. In fact, this doesn't even have... in fact, speaking of useful instruments, you'll notice I don't have... really, so we got engine gauge, altitude ring, no artificial horizon, no indicators of... no indicator of airspeed, no indicator of plane attitude. So you just got to kind of eyeball everything. All right. Throw prop. All right. Furthermore, no brakes. So once I move this thing, the only way to stop it is to cut the propeller. And hope you slow down. You'll notice we got a skid back here instead of wheels. Now I am going to use. Now I do have the option somewhere down here. Yeah, compass. I do have the option to have an onboard compass, and I figure that's fair enough to what somebody flying this plane in vintage times would have. So here's the deal. This is how I'm going to navigate. I've got my compass, and I've got charts, and I've got my flight plan sort of illustrated on my charts, but I'm not going to use the thing that actually shows where your airplane is. I've also got a paper copy of my charts, so you're just gonna have to trust me on this, but yeah, so this is the so this is what I'm going to use for navigating. You'll notice I don't have the thing that shows where my airplane is. If I turn this on, so here's the deal. If I turn this on, I have to first guess where I am on the chart. With certain level of accuracy. And if I'm wrong, or if I'm entirely lost, I have to drink some purple drink in honor of the sponsor of the first in honor of Vin Fiz, the sponsor of the first cross-country flight. I will get more into that once we take off. Once people actually show up to this damn thing. Okay, I am going to allow myself to do this because, again, the visibility out the front fucking sucks, and that is not a handicap that Calbraith Rodgers had. Alright, we are trundling along here, but again, there are no brakes, so I can't go too fast. So I can't get moving too quickly here. We're trundling along, and my goal is runway 22R over there. Now, in real life, so I'm at JFK Airport out on Long Island, and in real life, to fly a vintage light aircraft out of JFK, you'd have to be some sort of psychopath. But yeah, we're just gonna do this and hope for the best. It's a sim, it's okay. Now, I have practiced a little bit with this airplane, and I will say it is not fast. But, you know, vintage, that's the experience. We're going to be doing this in smaller segments, so, like, if you were in my last couple of streams, I was doing segments of about 400 miles a pop. These are going to be more like 100. The maximum range of this plane is a little bit shy of 150 miles, so we're going to be keeping under that. All right, here we go. 22 right. Now, you'll notice that for the sake of fairness, I've turned all the tooltips off, or turned all the tooltips regarding navigation and so forth off. It's just me. Again, I'm probably gonna be relying on the chase cam more than I should, just because of the visibility thing. I think it's fair if I show you the EX again. Visibility basically unobstructed out the front. But anyway, enough of my rambling. We're on the runway. Let's get this show on the road. We'll get this bird in the air. Okay. So my first objective is to get to Jamaica Bay. Oh god. And preferably out of the flight path of any of the actual air traffic. Unfortunately, this plane really likes, what I've discovered from practicing with this is that the plane really likes to drift, so I am going to have to keep my hands on the controls for the whole stream, for better or worse. Obviously no autopilot. Okay, so now that we're underway, and I guess a little bit of history here. Wright brothers, of course, flew their first airplane in December 1903. They proceeded to build the Wright Model 2 and bring it to Kitty Hawk next year. And then the Wright Model 3 the year after that, and it was at about this point that they decided their design was sufficiently viable to like start trying to sell people on it. Meanwhile, in Europe, largely in France, you have their own set of aircraft pioneers building their first set of airplanes, more or less independently of what the Wright brothers were doing. Although the Wright brothers were the first ones to actually successfully fly. We have the beginning of the pioneer era in about 1909. In said year, Louis Berlioz flew across the English Channel, which was a sort of insurmountable distance for the time, at least. You have the first air shows happening, first in France, And also there, the first sort of international aviation governing body pops up there, known as the FAI, which I actually forget what that stands for. Apologies. Or I'm not going to be able to tell you off the top of my head what it stands for. So the first air shows happen in Europe, and then meanwhile the Wright brothers start to organize. Wright brothers and a couple of other pioneers of aviation in the U.S., such as Glenn Curtiss, start to do air shows where they perform for a public that's never seen somebody fly before, so this is all novel. And at an early air show in the Los Angeles era was one William Randolph Hearst, newspaper baron, media mogul, inspiration for Citizen Kane, etc. And he was taken on a ride. In an earlier in a two-seater Wright airplane. The Wright brothers airplane, and immediately fell in love with it and decided to do pull up my notes here. Yeah, in October of 2010, he decided to offer a $50,000 prize to the first aviator to travel from the U.S. East Coast to West Coast in 30 days. That is the equivalent of $1.7 million in today's money. And to do a mild spoiler, in September of 1910, Hearst, who evidently never intended to actually pay out on this, added a deadline of October, which nobody ended up meeting. There was no winner for it. Nobody ended up taking that prize money. But several people did go. In fact, 3 aviators in the space of a couple of days, or in a space of about 2 weeks over in September 1911, attempted to get the prize. None of them would actually end up getting it. And that's where our story begins here. Where we've reached the starting point of the journey we're recreating here. More or less. So Calbraith Rodgers in the Wright Model EX Vin Fiz flyer took off from the Sheepshead Bay neighborhood of Brooklyn, which is roughly where I am. Once upon a time, there was a racetrack. There was a horse racing track in Sheepshead Bay. There isn't one now, or it isn't there now. But that's where there was sufficient. But it doesn't look like there was sufficient room to launch an airplane from now. Well, there used to be. I took off from JFK because that was the closest approximation I could come up with. We're gonna go. There's Coney Island. We'll go buzz to Coney Island for fun. Now Cal Rodgers had only first seen an airplane in April of that year, so 5 months prior to the beginning of this flight, and had taken flying lessons from the at the Wright Brothers Flying School in June of 1911. There we go, there's Coney Island. If anybody was watching the last set of things complaining they weren't getting a good enough look at anything, or thought they didn't get a good enough look at any of this stuff, this is for you. Cal had one big trick up his sleeve, or had one big advantage that the other two aviators who he was competing with did not have, which is that Cal went with had a corporate sponsor, hence all of this, and also had a 3 train cars worth of people and parts following him across the country, and so that's going to be the major theme of that's going to be like the major theme of this trip, of this series of flights, is following rail lines. But we haven't gotten there yet. Now, I don't think the Verrazano Narrows Bridge existed in 1911. Yeah, oh boy, did it not. But it is quite the piece of engineering. And there's all the traffic going, floating under the bridge. Very strange. But I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna float under the bridge too. Whee! So Rodgers took off from Sheepshead Bay Racetrack in Brooklyn and took his time to buzz several places in New York City. So we're going to take a quick tour of New York City, such as it is. Let's see. So we're in the New York Harbor, and so far easy enough to navigate. Safe to say, or this would be considered New York Harbor. I don't know. Would this be considered the Hudson River? It's easy enough to navigate so far, at least. I'm not a New Yorker. Now, I don't know whether Cal specifically buzzed Lady Liberty or not, but I'm going to. And before anyone makes jokes about a certain date, don't. And this plane doesn't have anywhere near enough momentum to knock down a building, so, yeah. Hello, beautiful. All right. And there, of course, is Ellis Island. Now, what I do know is that Rodgers was told specifically to fly past the Times building, which was William Randolph Hearst's New York headquarters. The thing is, I don't know where the Times head offices were in 1911. It's not the current Times building. So, yeah. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna try to find 34th Street. And the reason for that is because near 34th and I guess that's supposed to be the Staten Island Ferry. Anyway, but near 34th and Madison is the MetLife building, the Metropolitan Life Assurance building, and the Flatiron building, which would have been the tallest buildings in New York in 1911. Do I dare to go under the Brooklyn Bridge? Okay, you know what? We're not going under the Brooklyn Bridge. Call me a coward. Not doing it. I don't feel like doing it. But the Brooklyn Bridge actually did exist in 1911. I don't know about the Manhattan Bridge. Say New York skyline is very detailed. Yeah, that's Queensboro. Now the problem... Now, I said I wanted to go by 34th. The problem is I don't actually know what to look for. Yeah, I wanted to buzz specifically 34th and Madison. I don't actually know what I'm looking for. I have been to New York before you say anything, but, yeah. That kind of looks like the Metropolitan Life Insurance building. Let's gain some altitude here. Like I said, I think this building was the tallest building in New York City in 1911. So there's our target. Unless I'm not far enough north, which it's entirely possible. I have no idea. Okay, there's... Oh, that's it. That's it there. That was the tallest building in New York in 1911. Here's the Flatiron Building. Okay, so this must be 34th. Alright, so my next and biggest challenge... What is my... Okay, about 315. Alright, so my next challenge, and this is the one I'm really not looking forward to, is trying to find the Secaucus train junction, because that is where we're going to be joining up with what was the Erie Railroad. Is where the Vin Fiz Express on the High Line. I've been there. It's where the train that Rodgers was using as his navigation aid, or as his navigation and support left from. So I gotta try to decipher this fucking mess. Okay, that's the exit of the Lincoln Tunnel, if I'm not mistaken. Welcome to New Jersey, everybody. We'll not be here for too long, but... So I think I was here. I did here. Again, this is just too fucking crowded to actually decipher. Good job, FAA. Anyway, if I can find the Erie Railway line on the other side of this wetland here, then I should be okay navigationally for the rest of this. But well, there's the rub. Is that I don't know how easily that's gonna come. Okay, this is a train. Is it the train I need? Maybe. Maybe not. There's another train over there. What a nightmare. Okay. We'll get through this. This is my train. Let's see. Let's see what it does once we get over this river. Once we get over the river here. We're going on roughly the right heading. Does it cross a highway right past this? Looks like it. Okay, we're still just kind of got my fingers crossed that I'm on the right railway here, but so this is the Passaic River. So yeah, so I should be here. Feels like my airplane's getting pushed to the east, which would make sense with the prevailing winds. But that's why. Shit. Oh. This is just what you have to deal with when you're an aviator. Would have really helped if this football field had written down where it said where it was, but oh well. Those are some fast cars. Okay, I think I am here. That is my declaration of where I am. This train sure could be easier to follow. A lot of trees. A lot of tree cover. Okay, assuming this is I-80. Why? Okay. If this is in fact I-80 below me, then I'm on the right track. I-80, of course, did not exist. I'm going, so I'm running under the assumption the FAA charts are roughly equivalent to the level of detail of maps that Rodgers had to work with historically. That might or might not be the case. Presumably there was a lot less infrastructure to get distracted by, or get misled by. So again, like, I've got some advantages, he got some advantages. It hopefully evens out. Yeah, look how much the wind is deflecting my bird to the one side. Okay, so this should be the Passaic River again. And base on the map shows the railroad sort of splitting here, and I need to go to the more eastward of the two. Which I think is this. Yeah, again. A couple fewer trees would be helpful. Alright, there's no real... Unfortunately, there's no real... I don't think there's any markers for a while, or any other, like, crossing paths of anything for a minute here. So, just have to hope it's still going the right way. Keep my eye on the train line. Oh dear. Okay. Really could have been more helpful here. All right, so we gotta turn here to the left, which hopefully means I'm by Hohokus. Real place. Where's the plane? Okay. Thought I was losing altitude there for a second. Golf course. Is there a golf course listed here? Anywhere? Sometimes golf courses are on the charts. That one isn't. Assuming I'm not lost. Things like this do tend to undermine my confidence a little bit. Alright, so we're passing under this highway here, so that suggests I'm past, I'm between Ramsey and Mahwah, New Jersey. Alright, so somewhere around here it stops being New Jersey and becomes New York. Not 100% sure where, but yeah. I inadvertently gained quite a bit of altitude. Slowly bring this down a little bit. I do have a little bit of control over the elevator trim. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but yeah. Realistic for this plane or not. So I set it because this first leg of the flight took place on September 17th, 1911, so I set the simulator date to September 17th, and as you can see, the simulator is showing us some nice little bits of fall foliage here. Lovely time to be in the... Would this still be... I don't know if this would still be considered Hudson Valley or not, or if we're far enough away from it, but yeah. There's another place I gotta figure out. Okay, I think... I need to be more or less following this dual carriageway here. I think I'm on the right track. Ho, ho, ho. Well, we're still going, at least in the general heading I need to be going in. Guess I'll take that. How much further? It's gotta be... at least 2/3 of the way there at this point. So the keener-eyed among you may have noticed that this is late afternoon. And so the reason for that... later afternoon in Simulator. The reason for that is that on the night before the initial flight, on before the first leg of the Cal Rodgers' cross-country voyage, they arrived very late at Sheepshead Bay to set up the airplane for its first leg of the journey. And Rodgers was shuffled to his hotel in Manhattan, or was sent to his hotel in Manhattan, arrived at something like 3 in the morning, overslept, and only finally got off the ground at 3:45. A quarter after 4. So they're in keeping with the spirit of that, getting kind of a late start. Okay, I think we're at the north end of Tuxedo Lake. Yeah. Alright, cool. Alright, and then this is that highway. Alright, so we're approaching Southfields. No, that's zoomed out too far. Come on, wake up. Alright. It is convenient when there's a valley that the railroad basically has to stay in. At least then I know which way it's going. Now, if you're wondering what's going on here with the chart, so this is what's the normal. So this is the normal level of detail for a VFR chart, or for visual flight reference chart, which is what the FAA gives you to work with. And so here, this is what's called a terminal area chart, which is close to major airports, major cities, etc. So higher level of detail. In the case of New York, it's still a little cramped for my liking. Or still a little cramped for my liking close to town, but we're out of there now. Again, I'm really feeling the plane trying to push me to the right. Now we are approaching Harriman, New York, where there is a railroad junction, and I need to make sure to follow the right one. to be honest, not even sure where that junction was, but I passed where it should have been by now. Well, onward. I'm going the right direction. I'm reasonably certain I'm going the right direction right now. Apparently I should be looking out for hot air balloons. And it is really disconcerting the way the rail just keeps disappearing into the foliage like that. Especially since it's going to split from the highway somewhere here coming up. I'm guessing on the other side of this mountain here. Alright, I've lost the railroad. Like I said, I think we're going around this bluff, or this mountain here, and then something, so we'll just gonna hang tight for a minute and see if I can pick it back up. Is that... I think that's a road, not the... Can't fucking tell. Oh no. Okay, that's the railroad. Alright, never mind. Never mind. We're good. We're good. Everything's fine. There's too many goddamn trees. Alright, so here we are. Here, we're finally at the part where we sort of turn to the west. From there, we're actually pretty close to where I'm landing. Now, finding the airport is going to be a challenge all on its own. In this case, it looks like if I cross a highway, I've gone just about there. Now, of course, airports didn't... This is an extra level of challenge for me as opposed to the historic version of things, because, of course, airports didn't really exist in 1911. You just landed in whatever open space you could find and hope somebody with a gas can could get there. Ooh. All right, power line there, so I've got to be at Campbell Hall, I think. I bet that's the airfield. I'd like to get it a little bit closer first, though, before I start treating it as a first. Unless that's the airfield. I bet that's the airfield. Let's see, 3,000 feet. And that's another power line. Getting concerned. Where's this highway that was on the... I see on the map? Alright, shit. Oh, really? Well, alright. Purple drank time. Okay, I guess I just underestimated how far along I was. It's not good. Not vile, but it's not good. Well, good news is I'm only at half a tank, or I'm still at half a tank, which is better than I anticipated. A better fuel economy than I anticipated. So hopefully that means some of the longer things coming up will be less problematic than I had imagined. Okay, so here we're gonna follow this. Take us right past the runway. Ooh, is that a speedway of some sort? Alright, I still have no idea where this runway is. Well, if nothing else, hopefully my consternation here proves to you that I'm not cheating. Okay, so this is that intersection. That's my runway. Okay. How did I go from being really, from like, I swear I got like to this upstate part and suddenly all the distance, my ability to judge distances just completely went out the window. Alright. Foliage just before the runway, which I love. Love having to try to judge that shit. Okay. Bringing her in. Stop! Stop! I love not having brakes. It's great. Drive right through this tractor somebody left on the taxiway. Alright, so welcome to our first stop, Middletown, NY. Or Middleton, presumably. Okay, and we are going to crash into this gas can if I don't cut the... Ah! Alright. Okay. Alright, we made it. It is still a bit early. Let me see how long the next... Let me see how long the next leg is. Real quick. All right. Now I'm actually going to cut it here. so I can get some other things done tonight. But thank you very much for watching. Yeah, that was the first leg. Again, doing it in the very old plane made it interesting, I think. I like to think anyway. Yeah, so I will see you next time. Next leg, or so on Thursday we'll be doing at least one, probably two legs, because they're kind of short, or because I've got kind of short ones lined up. So yeah, I will see you then, and between now and then, straighten up and fly right. Thanks for watching.